on this topic then, what do you think the first thing someone should really have or in place before they really start looking at investing?
You need money, right? Of course. So I think the very first thing you need to do is to have a stable income, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that we don't really, many people don't really talk about. There's a lot of, the general idea in the market is, working a job is shit. Start your own business. You gotta invest and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. What I tell people is, if you hate your job, you change your job. You don't do business, right? If you hate your job, you do business, you end up hating yourself. There's a lot of things going on, and if you don't have that kind of stable income, you will never accumulate that basic wealth to then be able to dabble in the market, right? So I think that's probably one of the first things that you need to start with. Right? It sounds stupid, but it's just kind of what it is, and it makes it a lot easier, because if you think about it, you get a job in a month, in a year's time, you make about 50,000, if you're a uni grad, right? So that is where you start, right? And now you have the capital, and then you can do all the other things, right? So get a job first.
So when you say a job, is someone working at, like, let's say a McDonald's, is that considered the type of job you're looking at, or is there a certain type of income you think they should have before they're like, okay, yeah, you have what you need here to do the next, take the next step?
I think you got to look at income with relevance to expenses, right? So you want to be able to have income surplus month on month, right? So like it or not, if you are working a more minimal job, in terms of pay, doesn't mean what you do it's not worth. It just means the market doesn't value you in a certain price point, so you're paid lower. It's just a lot tougher to have that kind of income surplus. Right, so that is the base. It's very important. You need to have income surplus, so you compound over time, and then you have the capital to then invest. But on top of that, I think stability in the job is very important also, right? If you don't have a stable income, I mean, if you're working hour-to-hour shifts, then just look at the US, right? What is happening in the US at this point in time? There are a lot of people in the service sector, and many of them are paid hourly workers. They don't have benefits, and it's not unique to the US. The reality is gig economy is becoming more and more of a thing, right? So a lot of freelancers, a lot of artists, a lot of Grab drivers, and everyone, we don't have a stable income in that sense. So if you don't have a stable income and your income doesn't exceed your expenses, then it's very tough for you to even accumulate the first basis of funds to then even invest in the market. Yeah, I think that's where I look at it. So stable, and make sure your income is more than your expenses. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess adding on to that, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to have that the one job you have is going to be the only job, right? Like if you are doing something that you already love, but you still want to look at investing, and you feel like there's not enough from an income perspective, then that's where the whole idea of working, or what people call a side hustle, but in the past is just like taking on another job of some sort, right?
It's called part-time in the past.
Yeah, part-time.
Yeah.
Right, and building up that income there and using that money to take the next step.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's important to also notice. Like, you don't need to have that one big paying job, like high paying job or anything.
Yeah.
Look at taking on some sort of part-time job. And as Reggie also mentioned, like, hopefully this job is something that you actually enjoy, right? Because long term, like, this is the only way you're going to be successful, or not the only way, but like, your job's going to be your main source of capital, right? And in order for you to continue to invest money into the market, you need to have that source of steady source of capital, right? So if you're doing something that you already don't enjoy just for that source of capital, you're not going to be put in a very good spot to really, I guess, take advantage of it, like of the different opportunities that might come along.
Yeah, and I want to add on the job part, but let me pick up my pens.
Okay.
So I want to add on the job part. I think these days there's a lot of people talk about you must love your job, you must love what you do, and I think there's too much expectations priced into jobs these days, right? It's like they gotta pay you a good number, you gotta have growth, you got to learn, you got to be able to progress, and then you got to be able to enjoy it and have a good weekend and all the benefits, so there's a lot of expectations priced to jobs these days. I think that is something that we can reevaluate. You don't need social elements priced into job. If just so happened that your job is something that you've been doing for a really long time and it's not exciting, it's not interesting anymore, but because of the company's progress, because of the industry's progress, you may be stuck in terms of growth, then you can explore other things, right? Like you can go and do a side hustle and grow from there, meet your growth needs there. Or, if it gets boring, you need your social needs, then you meet your social needs elsewhere. Go and pick up social dancing or pick up a new hobby or do whatever, right? Don't need to price everything into the job. It's like the job these days, it's like it has to do everything, which when I look at it, it doesn't need to do all that. We just need to be clear why we're doing this job, what kind of benefits are we getting from this job. Yeah, that's kind of where I am.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned that it depends, in terms of like how much do you need from a job to be able to take that next step. And you said it really depends on lifestyle. Do you have a typical rule of thumb for someone?
What do you mean, like rule of thumb? You want to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah. So the way I look at it is like, if you're making like under 4,000 right now, you really should be focused on increasing that income, right? Because even though you're able to save, let's say, even though your expenses is like 1,000 or 3,000 a month, like that 1,000 is not like, it's great that you're able to save that much, but to have that effect, like work for you effectively, you actually need a bigger sum of capital, right? So typically I tell people, you need to look at like at least having 5,000-6,000 and have your expenses be only at 50% of that income so that you can actually invest the rest of that. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think that is like the ideal, right? You want to raise your income so that you got a bigger surplus. But a lot of times it is much easier said than done, right? The reality of the job market is there is a demand supply. Some people are just in industries that are restricted. They are not able to pay, right? So I think like in one of my podcasts, I think it was episode 2, I talk about this, like how I have a friend who was an administrative staff in a food and beverage company, and she jumped into another sector. She joined a legal sector doing the same thing or similar thing, which is administrative work, and she got a 30% pay hike, right? And another of my friend did the same thing. She was working in Singapore and she shifted to Hong Kong and she got a 30% pay hike, right? So a lot of times the market, we cannot discount the fact that there is a market involved, right? Some industries can afford to pay more because they have bigger margins. Some skill sets are needed at this point in time. That's why you can pay more. It's like how coders are paid a lot these days, right? But in due time, it should taper down, much like every other sector before it, right? Demand, supply. So if you just so happen to be in an industry that is on the rise and you're riding it, your pay is just going up and up, your company is growing, that's good for you. If you can find a company like that, join it, good for you. If you are not able to find it, then there is some reality we got to work with, right? So maybe pick up a side hustle, like what Sia said. Or when I look at it, I think lowering expenses is a lot easier individually, right? It is within your control, managing your lifestyle choices. I think that is a lot easier. And I did talk a little bit in the podcast, and I think there are a lot of people that talk about these also, like the minimalist lifestyle, right? So I'm not a minimalist per se, but I do subscribe to the idea of looking at things from a wider viewpoint, right? Like if let's say, like I love to hang out with my friends, so I have a social need, right? I need to meet that kind of need, but I don't need to go to a bar to socialize. I can always ask them to come to my place to have tea, right? Or they could always come to my place, bring some beer. It would be dirt cheap, very fun, and we don't need to care about other people, right? So I think we got to realize what's that need, that we are trying to fulfill, and that there are many mediums to fulfill that need, right? You want to socialize, you don't need to spend a bomb at a bar. You can always go to a friend's place, do a barbecue, catch a movie at your friend's place, whatever, right? So I think that is something that we need to address and see that expenses are a lot more within our control. Of course, if you're already at a very, very bottom line of that expenses, right, then yeah, we do need to have a more serious discussion depending on what it is. Yeah.
Hey, this is CS from More Money Malaysia. We are a platform dedicated to helping Malaysians like you make smart financial decisions. And the way we do that is through providing you with actionable advice, such as the video you just saw, right? But we're not here just to become your intellectual entertainment. We really do want to see you succeed, because we want to see you live that ultimate life that you've always dreamt of, right? And in order for us to do that, what we've decided to do is we want to help make it easier for you by providing different types of rewards throughout the months. So make sure you check out the description below, click on that link and see what type of reward you might be able to qualify for by taking action right now. And if you have any other questions about any of this, feel free to contact us wherever you find us. Take care.